Good afternoon, YouTube. Sean Ponder the second here. Sorry. I am coming to you from Kansas on my way home to Missouri. Welcome to another edition of Work to Home Vibes. Hopefully everybody is having a good day so far. I know I am. Got done with work a little early today. My boss told me to go home early. That's what I did. Hopefully everybody's day is going good. I know mine is. It's almost the weekend. As always, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at TonyGumble21. Also like, share, and subscribe to me here on YouTube. Also comment, Shelton Ponder. Today's topic I want to talk about is going to be big city or small town. I was born in a big city, and as I was growing up, my parents moved to another big city. In 1993, we moved to Illinois. I'm not going to tell you exactly where, you should know. Sorry. But we moved to Illinois. And Illinois has a lot of big cities in it. Decent sized town. When I graduated high school in 2008, I came back to Missouri. Someone asked me, well, why would you come back? Because the place where I was born is close to my heart. Now, I know that everybody's going to ask, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it has a lot to do with stuff because, number one, you know, you get used to living in a big city or a small town. You know, you could have been born in a big city but raised in the country. You could have been raised in a small city but been brought up in a big town. Let's rephrase that. Let's do that again. You could have been born in a small town but raised in a big town. Either way it goes. Big town or small town. To me, living in a small town is good because there's not a lot of hustle and bustle of the big city. Plus, you know, the lights, you know, there are not a lot of street lights around and you're able to see a lot of the stars at night. Get to see the stars align. But when you're in a big town, you know, like LA or New York or places like that, you have to deal with a lot of traffic and a lot of hustle and bustle and a lot of walking traffic and street traffic and all that. Which is why I've always told myself, if I lived someplace, I would not want to live in a big city. I would want to live in a small town. And the reason why I would want to live in a small town is because I don't feel like being bothered with a whole bunch of people. I don't feel like being bothered with, you know, a lot of people. And the reason why I wasn't is because the place where I was born, the area that I was, you know, raised in for the first couple of years of life, it wasn't as big as where we lived. You know, Illinois, the place where we lived, probably had 2 million people when we moved there. And we, moving from Missouri, which had close to almost 100, the place where me and my parents lived at the time, it was probably about close to 100,000 people. We moved to Illinois, and the population is close to 2 million. And then I moved back to Missouri, where the place where I was living at for the last several years, it was 30,000. But me personally, I don't know what everybody else would choose. I would choose a small town because, you're at least you know your way around. Now the big city, I know my way around anyway, because I was born. I was raised there. Getting around the big city is not the problem. The problem is dealing with the culture, especially if you're from a small town. Living in a big city is going to be I'm not going to call it tough. It's going to be a huge adjustment. A huge adjustment. And when you really think of it, if you're not familiar with it, it can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming, especially if you go to a big city where there's a lot of traffic, a lot of people. That's why so many people are deciding to move back to the small towns, because I'm not going to say that they can't handle it, but they're not used to being around a wide range of people. And anybody can feel claustrophobic. I don't feel claustrophobic, but my mom does. You go to, and that's why I say big city or small town, because people don't want to live. Certain people don't want to live in a big city. They don't. And can you blame them? No, you really can't. That's why so many people are starting to move back to the small town, because they're more familiar, they're more comfortable with being in a small town than they are in the city. I know I would be. But for me, if I were to live in a place, I would probably live in Connecticut. And the reason why I would live in Connecticut is because it's big city, small town. It is big city, small town, which means that you have a mix of the big city mixed in with the small town. In Missouri, they have small towns that you probably never heard of. Like, what part of Missouri have you heard of? Don't worry, I'll wait. And then you hear about these small towns that you look on the map and you'll say, wow, I never noticed that they had those. I never noticed that this town was there. Of course you didn't, because you've never heard of these on the news. You only hear about them once every couple of years. Oh, the so-and-so is raising money to build an elementary school. I've never heard of that before. Never heard of that town before. But the people who have lived there, they can tell you, they can spend a full day telling you, and you will never know that that place existed until they tell you. I know I've had the same thing. I've told people have told me about a place where they lived, and I say, wow, I've never heard of that before. You learn something new every day about people and where they have lived. Bar none. Bar none. Bar none. Is it cool? Absolutely. Because I know that if I hear about a place that someone has lived, I want to visit. I want to visit, and I want to be able to tell my friends and family that, hey, I visited this place. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh yeah, well, where I live is a lot better, because it probably isn't. But that's why people travel so much, is because they travel to these towns. They either travel by car, by plane, by train, or by bus. There is so much great stuff to see across this country in a town. There is. Where my family is from and there's another thing about a town. There's another difference between big city and small town, is that small town has a lot of rich history in it. Subsequent same goes for the big city, but the small town, you have more people telling you about what has happened, and you have historians that can take you on a tour, that can take you on a tour and show you everything significant about the town that you're in. Like I said, tons of history in a town, in a small town. I'm not talking about big town. No, I'm talking about small town. There is a lot of rich history in a small town like there is in a big city. But you will never know that unless you travel to that town and saw everything that there was to see. There really is. And I'm proud to say that I'm in a small town where, I'll tell people all the time about the certain neighborhood that my family has lived in. We have lived in the same neighborhood for over 100 plus years. I tell people that all the time. People are so intrigued about what I say about my family and being in the same neighborhood for over 100 years. They say, "Wow, really?" I say, "Yes. It's not." And my favorite quote, and this is a quote that I coined from a bunch of different people. They think that this is a game. This is not a game. This is real life right here. And I tell them, I say, well, my family has lived on the same block for the past 100 plus years. They're like, wow, really? I say, yes, we have. In fact, if you were to be my father or any of my family, they can give you a very specific, in very specific detail about where we lived, how long we lived there. And people are so intrigued because they see me and I tell them all the time, go to the town that I live, look at the rich history. Most of them have been there, most of them haven't. And I'll tell them, I'll say, the place where I am has a lot of rich history. It does. It really, really does. It truly, truly does. But people will never know that unless they actually researched it. Unless they actually researched it, then they wouldn't know. They would not know. Unless they actually went there and actually saw what it was about, they wouldn't know. Because when you hear about a small city, you're like, what do they have to offer? Well, let me refresh your memory. Small towns have a lot to offer, especially when it comes to tourists. Now, the place where I'm staying now, it's growing like wildfire. Back when I was young, they didn't have as much stuff as they do now. They don't. But throughout the years, families have started to move in. More houses have been more developers have started building houses and apartment complexes. Restaurants have started to go up, and the economic value has really gone up in the town. The economic revenue has really started to boom. Has really started to crest in the town where I am. Is it going to be like that forever? Depends. But the place where I am now, it was nothing. And then throughout the years, starting in maybe I'd say 2006 till now, it's been 14 years. Guess what? The town has blossomed. And that 30,000, I think, is close to 60,000 right now. I'm not quite sure. But it's pretty close. It's pretty close. That's why I said, don't downplay a small town without learning about its history. Because if you downplay a small town and you hear about them winning several awards, then you're going to say, wow, I did not know that. Of course you didn't know that, because you didn't do any research into it. You didn't do any research into it. And you can find out that there was probably a celebrity that was born in the city or the town. You never know until you do the research, people. Once again, you never know until you do the research. Once you do the research, once you figure out what's around there, you can go and ask all the questions that you want. You can do that. But don't go to a town and say, well, what is there to offer here? And he didn't do any research. You did absolutely not a bit of research. I don't know what to tell you. If I were to go to a town, I would do as much research as I could. I would see what was good to do there. And I would go on a tour. And then I would ask questions about the history and how it came to be. Bam. I mean, it's not that difficult. It really isn't. But when you try and downplay the fact that this town has a lot of rich culture to it, you're like, wow, I did not know that. Of course you didn't. You didn't do any research on it. Had you done research on it, maybe the outcome would have been a lot different. You never know. Anyway, I'm about to end this video. It's been 20 minutes wide. I don't know. I never know that I be able to talk as long as I do with these videos. I hope that everybody's enjoying them. I have 24 subscribers. I have 24 subscribers. I'm working to build that up. You know, big city or small town. Me personally, it would be small town. I'm more comfortable with being in a small town than a big city. Comment down below on where you would want to live. Would you want to live in a big city or would you want to live in a small town? I can imagine that most of you would say small town because you all would probably want to see, you know, the stars that you wouldn't be able to see in the city. Most of the cities. Anyway, YouTube, it's been great. Like, share, subscribe, and comment on this video. Shout and ponder. Also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at TonyGumbo21. Remember, this is one thing to remember. Live your life the way you want to live it, not the way someone else wants you to live it. You are the maker of your own destiny. You are. Alright, YouTube. I will see you all in the next video. You have a great rest of your day. Take care.